10 Daily Rituals from the 1930s. Britain that will never return. Life in 1930s. Britain moved at a gentler, slower rhythm. A world of coal fires, wireless evenings, and small rituals that stitched everyday life together. These weren't chores, they were rhythms that shaped family time, community spirit, and the comforting predictability of a simpler age. Today, they feel like snapshots from another planet, replaced by modern conveniences, digital habits, and lifestyles that run at full speed. But look closely, and you'll find a quiet magic in those forgotten routines. Here are 10 daily rituals from 1930s. Britain that will never return, lovingly brought back to life. 10. Opening the windows every morning to air the house. In 1930s Britain, the day often began with a ritual that feels almost ceremonial now. Opening every window to let in the fresh morning air. Before modern ventilation systems and insulation, houses were damp, smoky, and steeped in the scent of coal stoves and paraffin lamps. Health campaigns, stretching back to the Victorian era, had taught people that fresh air was essential for good health, especially to ward off illnesses like tuberculosis. So every morning, no matter how cold, families flung open their windows for 10 or 15 minutes. You'd see curtains dancing in the breeze and hear neighbors doing the same next door. It wasn't just ventilation. It was a belief in cleansing the home, resetting the day, and keeping the household healthy. Today, with double glazing, central heating, and airtight insulation, few people keep this habit. But for 1930s Britain, it was a cherished start to the morning. 9. The daily trip to the local grocer for fresh provisions. Before supermarkets, before online delivery, and long before home refrigeration became normal, shopping was a daily affair. People didn't buy groceries for the week. They bought only what would last until tomorrow. Milk soured fast, meat had to be cooked the same day, and even butter could soften too much without a cool pantry. Walking to the grocer wasn't a chore. It was community life. The grocer weighed sugar, flour, and tea by hand on brass scales. Cheese was cut with a wire. Bacon was sliced behind the counter on a hand-cranked machine. Everything came wrapped in waxed or brown paper. Neighbors swapped gossip in queues. Children were sent with handwritten notes. And people formed genuine relationships with the shopkeepers who knew exactly what each family preferred. It was a world without self-checkout, plastic packaging, or loyalty cards. Just human warmth and everyday familiarity. 8. Lining up the family's boots for nightly polishing. Shoes in the 1930s weren't fashion items, they were investments. Most families owned one good pair of boots each, sometimes two if they were lucky. Keeping them in top condition wasn't optional, it was essential. That's why in countless homes across Britain, evenings ended with a small wooden brush box being placed on the kitchen table. Boot polishing was often the children's job. Using polished tins like cherry blossom or kiwi, they rubbed blacking into the leather, brushing in circles until a gentle shine appeared. It wasn't unusual for a coal fire to be crackling in the background while the family talked, read, or listened to the wireless. The smell of boot polish, the soft scrape of the brush, and the pride of seeing a dull boot transform into a glossy one. These tiny rituals formed a rhythm of responsibility, routine, and care that feels both distant and strangely comforting today. 7. Popping over to neighbors just to exchange news. In a time when only around 1 in 10 households had a telephone, staying informed relied on human connection. If something happened on the street, you didn't text. You didn't send an email. You simply stepped out, knocked on a neighbor's door, and shared the news. It could be anything: a delivery arriving, a job opportunity, a local event, a weather warning, or even a boiled kettle for tea. Neighbors came and went freely. Children played together without arrangement, and the boundary lines we draw so firmly today simply didn't exist. This wasn't nosiness, it was community. People depended on one another because communication moved at the speed of walking, not Wi-Fi. Trust, conversation, and face-to-face chats were how information traveled. In the 1930s, a street wasn't just a line of houses. It was a living network of families who looked out for each other. 6. Heating iron clothes presses on coal fires. Long before plug-in irons became a domestic standard, laundry day involved a ritual requiring strength, patience, and a bit of timing. Cast iron, sade irons, heavy wedge-shaped irons were heated directly on the coal stove or range. Some households owned 2 or 3 irons, so one could heat while the other cooled. Ironing meant working quickly but carefully. Too hot, and you scorched the fabric. Too cool, and wrinkles stayed put. Women learned to judge iron temperature by the sizzle of a damp cloth, or even by hovering their hand above the metal. This was labor-intensive work, often done in homes without running hot water, electric lights, or modern washing machines. It was slow, sweaty, and physical, but also deeply routine, a weekly task that connected generations of homemakers. When electric irons finally became widespread, this old ritual quietly slipped into history. 5. Bath night on Fridays. Shared, scheduled, and carefully prepared. Modern bathrooms make bathing feel ordinary. In 1930s Britain, it was anything but. Most homes didn't have built-in bathtubs, much less hot water boilers. Bath night usually happened once a week, commonly on Fridays, when families prepared for the weekend and Sunday best. A large tin bath was pulled from the wall or shed and placed near the kitchen fire. Pots and kettles were heated on the stove and poured in carefully. Children bathed first, adults last, and the water was topped up as needed. Towels warmed by the hearth made the ritual feel special, even luxurious. Family bath night wasn't just hygiene, it was a shared event, a predictable part of household rhythm. Today, with showers available at the twist of a tap, the spectacle of a tin bath by firelight feels like something from a different world, and it is. 4. Early morning tea by the hearth before work. Workdays in the 1930s started early, and before anyone stepped foot outside, many families took part in a quiet ritual. A pot of strong tea brewed beside the kitchen hearth. Coal ranges were the heart of the home, warming the kettle long before sunrise. This early tea wasn't fancy. No mugs of frothy blends or herbal infusions. It was dark, simple, and strong enough to brace you for a long day in mines, mills, farms, or factories. Some people dunked bread. Others ate a quick slice of dripping toast before heading out. It was a moment of calm before long hours of labor. Parents gathered their thoughts. Children woke gently, and the soft glow of the fire lit the room. This grounding morning ritual has vanished from modern kitchens, replaced by rushing alarms and automated coffee machines. But its gentle charm remains unforgettable. 3. Coalmen delivering sacks of coal to every street. Every British street in the 1930s echoed with the thud of heavy sacks landing on doorsteps. Coalmen were part of the daily soundscape, delivering the fuel that kept homes warm and stoves burning. Their blackened clothes, leather backsacks, and incredible strength made them unmistakable figures in working Britain. Families bought only what they could store, often just a few days' worth, so deliveries were frequent. Children knew the routine: open the coal bunker, step aside from the dust, and watch the coal tumble in. For many homes, coal wasn't just heating. It powered cooking, laundry, and household routines. With the rise of gas central heating and electric ovens, in the decades that followed, this ritual faded away. But in the 1930s, coal delivery wasn't occasional. It was an essential rhythm of everyday life. 2. Reading the newspaper. Aloud after dinner. In an age before television and long before smartphones, the newspaper was the main source of news, and often the only shared entertainment after dinner. Many families bought one copy and made it count. Someone, usually the parent or the best reader in the household, read the headlines and main stories aloud. This wasn't just informative, it was bonding. Families debated the stories, shared thoughts on politics, chuckled at comic strips, and listened for updates on the wider world. With literacy rates high, reading aloud wasn't due to inability. It was simply a tradition rooted in sharing, discussion, and togetherness. Today, every person scrolls their own screen in silence. But in 1930s Britain, the news was a collective experience, spoken like a fireside broadcast. 1. Gathering around the wireless for scheduled programs. And now, the most iconic ritual of all, the one that defined 1930s evenings. When a wireless set arrived in a home, it became a treasured possession, placed proudly in the living room. Families arranged chairs around it like theater seating, listening intently to the BBC's carefully scheduled programs. There were no recordings, no replays, no on-demand options. When a favorite program aired, you stopped everything. People hushed each other. Children sat cross-legged on the floor, and the warm glow of the wireless dial created a cozy atmosphere unlike anything today's screens can replicate. From comedy and music to news and dramatic readings, the wireless brought the world into British homes in a way nothing had before. It was intimate, communal, and unforgettable, the heart of 1930s domestic life. These rituals belong to a Britain that moved at a slower, more human pace, a world shaped by coal fires, community bonds, and simple routines. They may never return, but remembering them helps us appreciate how everyday life once felt, warm, shared, and beautifully grounded in togetherness. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.